Hey guys, I wanted to do a like a three-part series. I would say mini series on opening, middle game, and end game principles. They're more geared toward 1200 and under players. So a lot of the principles you might already know and already employ in your games, and there's might be some that you don't. So I'm going to start off with opening principles, and hopefully you get something out of it and use it in your games. So I've prepared just real simple opening. You don't have to know what the French defense is, but this one is the French defense, signified by the moves e4 and e6. Oh, go on, e4 and e6. All right, so let's kick off with the French defense, and we start off with the first opening principle. I just put pawn, knights, bishops. So think about that order as you're developing your pieces. 1 to 2 pawn moves in any opening, then bring a knight out. Not to say you can't do a bishop next in like a London system or something like that, but typically if you're starting out or like I said under 1200, you kind of want to develop in that order. You know, pawn or two, a knight or two, bishops, and then develop from there. All right, so we get into a normal structure of the French. All right, white has brought two pawns out and a knight, and black has brought out 2 pawns and a bishop. Notice the pin going on here. Not that this is a video on tactics or attacking principles or anything like that, but we've just got this pin right here, but white's going to ignore it and develop a piece. So if black wants to waste a move and capture here, white will recapture, doubling pawns, but at least white's developing or capturing toward the center. It's going to have a nice pawn center and has already developed a piece, whereas black won't have any pieces out, and white will just be further along in development. So black plays knight e7, and then we have knight f3. All right, so notice we have bishops out, knights out, pawns developed, and both sides are ready to castle. That's another thing you want to do, is try to castle early if you can. Not to say that like 100% of the time castling kingside is the way to go, or castling at all is the way to go. But more often than not, you do want to castle. I notice with people just starting out playing chess, maybe they've only, they've learned the moves and they've got a handful, 5 or 10 games under their belt. They're leery about castling because it feels like you're putting your king in a corner, like an unsafe corner. It has less mobility. But that's not the case. You're getting your rooks connected. Your rooks won't connect if you don't castle. Otherwise, it'd be very, very hard to get them connected. And also, your king is actually safer because typically you're going to develop your pieces around your king in such a way that defends the pawns in front of the king, and you're going to castle to where your king's not only where your king's safer, but depending on where the attack is going to go, it'll dictate where your king is going to go. More often than not, you're going to castle to the king side. So let's see how the game continues here. All right, black castles, white castles, and then we have a second move with the same knight from black, and second move from white. Typically, you don't want to move the same piece multiple times in the opening because you're kind of missing out on some key development. But here, the reason it's good for white and black, I mean, black's getting the knight to a better square. Yeah, you could spend some time developing, but here, white no longer has this pin with the king, so white wants to reroute here and, to probably launch an attack on the king side. So next principle is keeping the queen at home. If you notice, both sides of black and white, the queens are at home on the home square, and it's a good idea to keep your queen. I want to say I saw in a book when I first started playing, it showed the stars on like these. I want to say it was like these squares, showing that this is a safe zone for your queen early on opening in the game. I would just say don't throw your queen out there just going on a crazy attack right out of the opening, because you might be able to win a pawn, but then you end up getting your queen trapped, you lose your queen, and by move 7 the game is already lost when you could have spent time developing. So if you can, keep the queen home unless you're far enough along in your knowing openings to know that that the move is sound. But for now, just keep the queen at home. So now that knight has moved, that bishop's not attacking anything or influencing that square, so it retreats. White advances, closing the making a closed structure with the pawns and kicking this bishop again, so the bishop moves again. White gaining a tempo meaning just it's kind of like you're gaining a free move. So now it's White's move again after kicking that bishop out of the way, and White develops almost its last piece. Right, so we're almost out of the opening phase. So both bishops on both sides are developed, and White completes its pawn chain, but not just for the sake of completing this pawn chain, but also to bring the queen here, the last piece in development, and looking to make this queen and bishop battery going toward the king. So notice put the arrow here directing at that pawn. You want to attack in the direction of your pawns. All right, so notice these pawns are telling you exactly where your attack is going to go, because it's going to be kind of hard to attack on the queen side. Not only that, the king isn't over there, so typically you want to attack where the king's at, but more importantly, the direction of your pawns. Sometimes you don't want to attack where the queen's at. Maybe black has a really weak queen side, so it's easier to infiltrate and gain material on that side, and maybe just play defensively on the king side, but go for a queen side attack. So let's just keep it moving here. Black develops its last piece. White gets queen on c2, and notice now we've completed all of development. Rooks are connected, king is castled, all the pieces are off the back rank. We have pawn moves going on. We have a pawn chain. We've established the direction of the attack. Black is almost fully developed. Maybe the only thing missing is getting the queen to a little bit more active square, maybe going for a pawn breakthrough. But yeah, for the most part, this is out of the opening phase. The very last thing I have to say about the opening, and this goes for the middle game too, is respect your pawns. That's something I've learned over time. That I think it was Philidor that said it. Pawns are the soul of chess. I mean, that couldn't be any more true. I mean, you can't get another queen in the game without pawns. And there's so many end games that you're going to win because you were just one pawn up, or you had the better pawn structure. You didn't double your pawns or isolate your pawns or have backward pawn weaknesses, or that's all stuff for another video. But the opening phase can dictate whether you're going to have a good pawn structure or bad. So really try to respect your pawns. It's not just about getting your pieces out there. All right, so if you have any questions, please comment. I'll try my best to answer. Hopefully I gave you a better understanding of the opening, and look forward to, in the next day or two, I'll be putting a video out on middle game principles. So a lot of the middle game principles, well, you'll have to wait and see. So I don't want to make this too long. So enjoy. Hope you guys get something out of it.